Now, you just said something again really important. You said it gives an opportunity to prove the value of the customer support team. There's too many of us in the industry that are feeling like that support department, not a strategic asset. In these regular meetings that you have you ever felt like a support department? Or is it the time where you feel like, no, this is my opportunity to educate, to help, to support the rest of the company and bring insights that they just didn't understand or know, whether it's marketing, sales, finance, whatever? Has it given you a platform to go from the ticket taker, cost center to the value center that impacts the rest of the company? Is that like an important way that you've transitioned inside of Top Hat?
Yeah, and say like Steve, that's exactly what it is. It gives not only my team, but an opportunity to bring that voice to the table to make sure every support member has that seat at the table, even though I'm the representative of my team. But it's also an ability to make sure that we're showing that the support team is a strategic asset. I think I've been very fortunate here at Top Hat where we have a lot of support from our CEO, and there's a lot of concerted effort around making sure that customer facing teams feel valued and are motivated, especially during our busy period, our busy season. But ultimately, when we're talking about strategy, when we're talking about ensuring the value of support is being recognized, Voice of the Customer program is hands down an amazing way to do that. It might not be the only way, but it's certainly something that I find is incredibly valuable.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity to showcase your storytelling capabilities. If you could, and I don't want you to divulge anything that's proprietary, but give us a story, an example of one of those meetings where you came in and you shared incredibly valuable voice of the customer information that everybody started nodding their heads or like, oh, absolutely. Like, is there a story that you could tell us that kind of just brings this to life?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll just pick like a recent example. So last month, because one of our focuses within the company is to look at different ways that we can leverage AI. And clearly, every single company is looking at ways that they can leverage AI to improve their business, improve their operations, and really get some value out of individual LLMs or anything that's out there in the universe. So, one thing I presented on was really my findings and my research because I'm curious. That's part of being a support member, wanting to help and being curious in what the individual item looks like, having that investigative spark. I was looking at brand perception specifically and using AI to figure out how does an individual, somebody who doesn't know anything about Top Hat specifically, how do they perceive Top Hat as a brand? And that particular presentation was something incredibly different from what we normally do at Voice of the Customer. So, what I mean by that is in our conversations, typically it's very department focused. Again, building that context on what is one department doing today. And that would be the presentation we would have for that bi monthly meeting. But this time around, it was something about like, how does AI perceive Top Hat? What is the reputation that Top Hat has? What does that look like? And then provide that information to me, and of course, played around with it, tried different LLMs to see what sort of responses were out there. But where it became really interesting was the findings that surfaced from it. And a lot of that ended up being that there was old information that happened to be out there in terms of our mission statement and also our strategy. Those have been updated within the last year or so. And clearly, with a large language model, any model, it's only trained on past data. It has trouble with newer information out there unless it gets retrained. So that became an opportunity at that point in that presentation for our marketing team to really review and look at some quick wins on how we can improve that messaging and improve the credibility of what we were putting out there with marketing messaging. And we've already made some improvements now in terms of having that translate over to improving the responses that we get from whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini. That still is a work in progress because it will take some time for the new information to hold. But we now have a strategy. We now know that there are certain elements that we can really focus on. And yeah, like that was my wow moment when that happened.